all I really wanted to do was buy a business and do that on my own. And what happened is I negotiated an $8 million deal with no money down.
Welcome to the Business After Hours, where the ties loosen, the suit relax, and we talk business without the boardroom. Grab your favorite drink, kick back, and let's dive into the world of business after hours.
All righty, welcome back to another episode of the Business After Hours podcast. Here with my co-host Jared and Renan. How are you gentlemen doing today?
Doing good. I should have poured a drink. Man, I know it's only 3:30, but heck, it's Friday. So.
No, nobody knows that when we're posting it. You're good.
Right. Now they do.
Yeah, now they do.
So, Renan, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, man. So, yeah, I'm originally from New York. I live in New Jersey right now. I left for the Army when I was 20. Didn't have much of a path, future, or anything like that I could foresee. Met some really good people in the military that gave me the direction and mentorship that I needed. And then it just set me off on an incredible path of self-belief and confidence to get, I'm 49 now, but I've had a series of events in my life where people are like, what makes you think you can do it? What makes you think I can't? And so then I just kind of go with that. And I got that from the Army. I really did. And it's come a long way. So that's how I started, and we could talk about everything leading up to today.
Yeah, let's dive into it.
Yeah. So 12 years. Go ahead.
So 12 years.
12 years. I started out as a combat medic.
Okay.
And that's where I just thought I was always going to be just an infantry medic, a grunt. Just living in the mud, sleeping in the rain, and I had this one guy, Sergeant First Class John Feltis. And he used to read us. I was in a 30-day rotation at the hospital because I was a medic, and we did this program to see how the hospital medics lived. And the hospital medics got transplanted to the field to see how we lived. And so, we're sitting there in a clean environment, like a bunch of roughnecks out there, And there was a sergeant there, and he would read Chicken Soup for the Soul every day and talk about dreams and goals and beliefs. And I'm like, 20 years old, right out of New York. Get out of here with that. I'm just a combat medic. Nothing ever is going to change, whatever. But then on the 30th day, the very last day, I went to him. I said, look, man, you have all these dreams, these goals. For real? Is this really? He's like, absolutely. I'm like, so you're saying if I want to go be a doctor, I could go be a doctor? He goes, you're going to have to put work in. You're going to have to do your part, but absolutely. So the very next day, I was at Fort Lewis, Washington. I went to the community school there, Pierce College. And then that was when I met the second guy, Michael Kennedy. It was hilarious. I'm sitting there, I'm talking to the admin. I was like a PFC, private first class at the time. I'm like, look, I'm signing up. I want to be a doctor. Put me in the doctor classes. I'm like, all right, no. There's something called prerequisites. And so if you want to take anatomy and physiology, you have to take the one for nursing first, and then build up for medical. Nope. So our first class Felton said, if I believe I could do anything I want. And so I'm like, kind of arguing. And then Dr. Michael Kennedy comes through, and he's like, what's going on? And she's like, this guy who wants to sign up for this class. I'm telling him there's prereqs. And I guess just the energy I came with, he was like, you know what? I'm the professor for that course. Put him in. Let's see what he has. And I found out, 4.0. I'm really good at college. And not only that, but I really love science. And that's when it started clicking. I'm like, oh, crap. So it takes a little bit of belief in yourself, and it also takes a little bit of other people to believe in you, to give you that shot, to give you that opportunity. And, that's what really did it for me. I was like, man, you put these two things together, really, you could do anything. So I got to the point where I got my pre-med degree. I got, and my fail-safe was, when it came time for re-enlistment, I asked them, what is the hardest medical, MOS that you have that's, without going to an officer? And so it was cardiology at the time, cardiology specialist. I'm like, sign me up. You get that golden ticket, your first re-enlistment, you get to re-enlist for whatever you want, sign me up. So I go there, and I'm really good at that too. Graduated top of my class. They're like, you could choose wherever you want in the Army to go. That has a cardiology program. And I chose Walter Reed in DC. They're like, wait a minute, you could go to Hawaii, you could go to Longstool, you could go to all these places, and you're choosing DC? Yes, because that's where the medical school is for the Army. It's in Bethesda, Maryland. And so they're like, all right. So I got there, finished my degree at University of Maryland, and then decided, you know what, I don't want to go to medical school. I just want to go on with my life and do other things. So I ended up in industry, pacemaker sales. So 12 years in the Army, got out in DC, Walter Reed, and joined, Fortune 50 at the time. Medtronic was the #1 device sales. I didn't realize how lucky I was to land a job within that company. And and then I did that and continued to progress, went from clinical specialist to sales rep, moved to New Jersey, changed companies, won President's Club, all kinds of awards. And I got to the point where I'm like, all right, what's next? And then there was this, this thing of, it was always kind of in the back of my mind, providing opportunity to those that don't see it for themselves. So I was like, how am I going to do that? I have to make FU money. That's what I got to do, because people aren't just going to put money into that. It sounds altruistic. It sounds good. But at the end of the day, what's in it for somebody? So I got this idea. All right, I'm going to buy a business. But not only that, I'm going to build this whole thing behind it and then start an academy so I could help people that are underserved. Because a lot of people have their like masterminds and all this stuff. And it's cool. I mean, I joined masterminds and it definitely helped me. But me at 20 years old, I'm not looking for them, can't afford them. I barely wanted to listen to some free chicken soup for the soul, right? I'm not paying 10 grand a year. So I feel like my goal, my mission in life is to bridge that so I could get to the me at 20 years old, like Sarnfeltis did for me. Mm-hmm. And so that's this journey that I'm on right now.
Awesome.
I find it kind of funny because we kind of led similar paths, so I actually entered the Army in New York as well, Buffalo area. I don't like to admit it, but I was 19 years old. I didn't really see a path for me. What I really wanted to do, I really wanted to be a flight medic. But I didn't have the ambitions when I was getting out of school, and I decided to just go and be a combat engineer. So my first 5 years in the Army was combat engineer, but I always wanted to be in that path of doing flight medic. And I was airborne, so I blew out both my knees, and so that kind of quickly exited, my dreams there. And so I ended up reclassing. I did kind of the same thing. I said, what's the best school I can get to in the medical field, and I can still progress in my rank. And I went respiratory. So I went to the respiratory therapy school. And so I did respiratory for 8 years. I did here at at Fort Sam at BAMC. I did both the trauma and the burn center. Also went to launch school, did 3 years in launch school, went to Afghanistan as a respiratory therapist. But like what happened with me was I kind of hit a wall, where I was burnt out. I dealt with so much death and so much, trauma, that by the time I was done, I was like, what do I do next? And so I struggled really I really tried to go into the medical sales field, because of my knowledge, but they were very picky on who they wanted to hire. And so where I struggled. So it's just funny.
No, so I was presented with respiratory therapy. They're like respiratory therapy and cardiology. I shadowed respiratory therapy, and all I saw was that blood. I was like, nope, that's not for me. So I went that. It's kind of funny. that's it.
But it's weird to say, because my wife is works in the cath lab. She's a nurse in the cath lab, and so she's always sending me the clots that cardiologists remove. So it ain't even any better.
No, but it's different when you're on there. It's just, I don't know. It's different. I deal with blood a lot better.
I always said I could deal with that more than I could deal with shit. The moment a patient shit, and the moment they shit, I turned out and walked away, and I was like, "Nurse, this is why you're an officer. This is why you get paid more. go take care of it."
We can both agree on that.
So I was like, I can deal with the lungs, I can deal with that kind of thing, but the moment we had a code brown, I was like, no, this is my exit.
No, so the cath lab, that's exactly where I spent. I was at Walter Reed in the cath lab, and then I came up as a cath tech, and then I was the NCOIC of the cath lab. And then I was in charge of all the cardiology service for Walter Reed. And it led to me getting picked up by Medtronic, which was and that was tough, because I understand what your struggle is with getting into industry, because, they were overlooking me. I was a bit of a, still unpolished kind of, young infantry guy. And the reason I got the Medtronic job,
when it comes to these medical device sales, you guys aren't good looking enough. Like that's
it. That's exactly right.
I'm just being honest.
Yeah, you're right.
But the guy that hired me was an officer in the Navy. He was, I'm sorry, in the Marines. He hates it when I say it, but he went to Naval Academy and all that, but he was a Marine officer. And so he saw me come up through the ranks. And so he hired me into Medtronic, and he's like the third guy. Changed my life forever.
I really feel like, and maybe you feel the same way, but like the path that I took, I did the combat world. I did 5 years, I did the field exercises. I did all that bullshit, you know what I mean? And went to Iraq for 15 months there. And then I got to experience the respiratory, the hospital side, and it, you learn to appreciate, the early on stuff, because you're like, it sucked, but it kind of made me who I was. Where in the hospital, I don't know if I would have had that same drive the way because of the leaders that I had very early on that I always thought were assholes and dicks, to be honest. But looking back, I really, really appreciate everything that they did. Like you said,
Absolutely. Do the hard stuff when you're young and dumb, and you can do it. That's it. I mean, I joined the Army when I was 20, and I still have it right here. This is usually on the wall. But this is actually pretty funny. I was doing some stuff in the office here, but the reason I joined when I was 20 is, there we go, is I tried giving college a go, and I have it here where they released me from Queens College. They said, your grades are not good, get out. So this is like a community in New York, right? And then I'm going to hang that right next to my MBA right over there from University of Maryland. And then I went on to go to Columbia for private equity and venture capital, which is Ivy League. I never thought I'd be Ivy League anything, but it's just that belief system.
That's so awesome,
So this is always going to remind me that I was this at once doesn't mean you're always going to be this.
It's true.
100%. 100%.
So what made you want to go from the medical field to venture capitalist?
That's where the money is, to be honest with you. That's where the big money. That's where the life-changing money is. If you do it right, it's hard work. And I kind of accidentally got into it because all I really wanted to do was buy a business and do that on my own. And what happened is I negotiated an $8 million deal with no money down. I didn't have $8 million. I didn't take a loan for it. I negotiated buying a company without putting down any money. It's like a magic trick, right? But I was just so I have kind of some brokerage experience, with helping to buy and sell businesses, and so I think a lot of people hear the no money down. What kind of persistence does that take to get to there? Because I'm sure a lot of the businesses that I worked on selling, they would barely want to do 50%, if any at all. They want, you know what I mean? And so, by no means is it a business model. I am not the 100% seller finance guru, because, and it's funny because I do a couple of podcasts, and people want to call bullshit. I'm like, cool, I'm not selling anything. Yeah. You're the one that's asking me how I did it. It's like,
true,
but
very true.
And I didn't expect to do it. It was just, I truth be told, I was looking at buying a dry cleaner for $700,000. I had 70 grand put aside, and I was going to put that down, that SBA, 10% down, get the rest on SBA. I was approved. Everything was great. But then I hired a VA to find businesses off market. And we found this restoration company that was doing 2 million EBITDA. They were selling it for $8 million. And I kind of fell in love with that. And I was like, I can't, there's no way I could buy that. But it's free to look, kind of like an open house. You see this mansion. Let's go take a look at this mansion. Let's dream, right? I went and I started looking at the finances, just everything. And all I saw was opportunity and a strong business model. I was like, well, I need to figure out how to do this. I have 15 years of strong sales behind me at some of the best companies in the world. So I've learned a lot of things along the way. And I just had real conversations with the owner. And it was like, hey, look, this is what's in it for you. This is what's in it for me. If we could figure this out, let's do this. And that's what it really took. It took, how do we win-win in this whole situation? Yeah.
You still own it?
Yeah. This is it. Syndicate Venture Group. Syndicate Building Solutions. It was Restore Pro. We renamed it to Syndicate Building Solutions, changed the logo for like chevrons. This is supposed to be an S and a B for Syndicate Building, but, so this is the nod to the veteran-owned business. Still on it.
So question on that, because obviously we gear towards small business for the podcast and even trying to encourage those to start up. So you knew nothing about restoration, I'm assuming.
No.
None of your Ivy League school taught you restoration.
No.
So one, what made you fall in love with that business? And two, going into it, how did you even know how to operate it?
So what I fell in love were the 80% operating profits, right? And then it distills down to 40% profit margins, 30 to 40% profit. That's a strong business model, right? Mm-hmm. It's all insurance based. So, you have very low risk of not getting paid because insurance has to pay you. It's just a longer billing cycle. And you're right. I didn't know anything about it. But there goes the belief in myself, right? So it's like the very first thing, I had 35 employees and I met up with the entire team. They had levels of management. I was like, look, I don't know anything about restoration. That's what you guys know. I know about business. I know scaling. I know leadership. I know how to build things. So if you let me do my thing, you fill in the rest, and then I'll learn along the way. So now I could talk restoration all day. I've been doing this 2 years and a couple of months. I'm not going to not learn. So I learned, and now we're doing a lot of different things. We changed the model a bit. We rebranded ourselves. We have different contracts. Like we just got on with USAA, and that's the me thing because it's a veteran thing, right? Before they didn't have that, so that's like my competitive advantage. So we figured out a way to win and succeed.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean. I think that's one thing that obviously we know the market that we're in today's economy is not very good. And so you have people, unemployed, been unemployed for a while, and obviously not knowing what to do. They're banking on unemployment, but at the end of the day, when tough times come, like they are, small businesses are birthed out of this and turn into large corporations eventually. Mm-hmm. So you have that in there. And so what did you have? What hesitations did you have going from into the restoration?
Oh, so I sent it. We went and we signed for the thing. And then the funny thing is, so I have a business partner who does know construction, right? I met him in my MBA course. So he kind of was going to be my guy also that, that's my business partner. That's who I could rely on, who I could trust. And he was like our CFO also. He was an accountant for a construction company. But the morning that we signed for that company, we both wanted to throw up. We thought it would feel like Christmas morning, and it was like the scariest thing ever. But once again, belief in ourselves, belief in what we could do. And the first year, fantastic. We were making money. It's great. Last year, that's when the learning happened because it was like one of the worst years of my life, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it wasn't all this. I know I'm kind of sitting here all jovial and stuff. I am just now coming off of one of the worst years. Yeah, it was like we thought we were going under 4 or 5 different times, not making payroll. And it's because we were making great money year one. We put a lot of it back into the company. We spent a lot on getting new vans, getting a new location, rebranding, new websites, all this stuff, right? And we didn't save for the bad economy. And, I put a lot of money into the private equity firm. I hired people for that. I had executive assistants. I had all that stuff. And the money was going down. I was like, hey, what's going on here? And then it's easy to run a company when you have all the money.
Sure.
This past year, I learned how to run a business. You don't have anything. We got scrappy. We got lean. We got efficient as we thought we were efficient. No, we got very efficient this past year. And now we're built up for a great 2025 because now we kind of did this. And as the business goes up, we've put a lot of really good processes in place that we could scale up, and it's going to be a really good year.
That's awesome.
Did it take a while to recognize that you were kind of on this decline?
Yep, because I've never done this before. So, I still had this optimistic outlook, and then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute. And then my spidey sense, I was the first one to get the spidey sense of we're going down. And my business partner is significantly younger, he's 30. So he doesn't have he hasn't seen it enough. So he was like, no, we're going to be fine. And then it was a couple of months later, he's like, oh, we're in trouble. and then we rallied up and figured it out. So
that's good. So then that birthed out the venture capital group. Out of that, I'm imagining.
Well, no. When I was able to secure this first one with no money down and with no loan, I was like, well, I know that's a one-off, but if I could do it with no money, if I could raise some capital, I know I could negotiate at least 50% seller financing. And I did. I got 2 more companies to agree to 50% seller financing. There was kickers in there. There was EBITDA bonuses. There was a lot of things that and that's what I love about private equity that I don't like about banks. We're free to construct it and set it up however we want. As long as we all agree on the terms, we have a lawyer put it down on paper, we're fine. Banks are like, no, you have to have this, and it's very constricting, and you can't do a lot of things. You can't be as creative.
That's why I think that's why we struggled this year ourselves, because I deal with business lending, funding, and that kind of thing, and it was very hard to get people approved. First off, because there's so much there, and it's heartbreaking because a lot of these are like veteran-owned businesses and they're pouring their souls into it. And you want to help them out, but it's so hard because last year was just shit, to be honest.
Yeah.
In the funding world.
Oh yeah, I learned the harsh truth about MCA loans. I went down that path. It's been a big year of learning. Yeah,
and I don't think MCAs aren't necessarily bad, but I think you have to use them right. You know what I mean? And I think that's probably the bad thing. The bad is a lot of people don't understand that, and that's like usually what I try to get in a conversation with, is to make sure that if this is your only option, then how to utilize that option, to have some success out of it, because it always reminded me of like the car business, with like that new private, the high interest, you know what I mean? That's what always replays in my and so yeah.
So I'm driving that Camaro. That's what's happening right now. But no, you're absolutely right. It's good, and I had no idea. So this is what I'm saying. This is one of the lessons learned. Now I know how to best use facilities like that in a pitch when you need to. So yeah.
And so how has the venture capitalist group been going?
So that's the thing right there. And last year, with it being an election year and all that, we had a term sheet signed for, it was something in the order of $207 million, right? And then it was like, all right, we're doing this. We were all happy. We're popping, that's another reason we were spending a lot of money and doing things, because, all right, the money's coming. Well, guess what? The money's not there until the money's there and cleared, and you're able to use. So it stayed very positive. We had everything on board. We had family offices. I was going to family office meetings. Everything seemed like it was going. We're like, yes. So I have that. That's going to be the other thing I framed, that $207 million term sheet that's been, floating around. And then we were like, all right, let's cut that in half. So it came down to 76 million. So I'm like, all right, we can still do a lot of damage with 76 million. So we're still waiting for that to happen. I'm not holding my breath, but it's kind of resurfaced now that the election's over and people are feeling good about things. They're not T-Rexing their arms anymore. They're writing checks, and venture capital is picking up again. So hopefully,
just out of curiosity, because we dealt with that on the lending side, that that was the common excuse toward the end of the year, was waiting on the election.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I mean, call me crazy, but I just feel like business doesn't stop based on who the damn president is.
I completely agree. It doesn't matter. We just figure out.
Because I thought I was crazy. I'm going, why does at the end of the day business still moves forward?
That was the most disgusting excuse. That's all we heard, and we would go to these big meetings.
Glad we weren't the only ones.
That's I'm talking about. They would hold these meetings at Fort Lauderdale, Family Office Club. That's what it's called. And I mean, you have some big names in there, like Mitzi Perdue and Jeff Hoffman, big names. And that's all we kept hearing. Oh, the election, people are unsure, so they're holding on to their money, and dry powder isn't as much as it used to be, and overinflation in the venture capital world. So there was a lot of these factors. We're in a downturn. The economy's going down. Okay, let's figure it out. This is the time to invest. This is really it. So,
No, and that's a good point, because like that was, and I asked one person, like, okay, like I'm not asking which way you want the election to go, but what if it doesn't go the way you go? Then what? Are you going to shut up shop? Are you going to stop? Like like what do you do with your business? Like you're going to keep going.
Exactly. It's a BS excuse. Just give me the rules that I have to play with, and I'll figure out how to play the game. That's all. It doesn't matter who's sitting behind there. That's it.
Yeah. Right. So. And so what's your goal with the company? What's your vision with the venture capitalist group?
Oh, so what I want to do is set up growth by acquisition. All companies, horizontally structured. So, so like a lot of restoration and like companies. So exterior stucco, interior restoration, cabinetry, things like that. I'm not really getting into HVAC because that's a whole other language of licensing and everything. I know people are like, oh, HVAC and electrical is all the same. No, it's not. Absolutely not. Right. Okay. So, the restoration space I like, there's a lot of, flooring, roofing, siding, windows, doors, all that is within the same realm. We get a bunch of companies that are scaling under one roof, same back office, same shared services. We could decrease the insurance that we're paying. I mean, with just the other two acquisitions that are pending, we got the insurance down from what would be $400,000 for everybody, and we got it down to about $250,000 for all of us as a conglomerate. So that's economies of scale saving. We would have all accounting centralized. We would have a lot of shared resources. So that increases your profits as you scale up on these things, and then sell once we hit 100 million in EBITDA. That's the big goal. That's the big crazy ass goal that we have. 100 million in EBITDA, which means we're doing about probably 500 or 600 million top line revenues.
I think and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I really think it's important for listeners that if they don't really understand what EBITDA is, or sellers earning discretion, like go learn that stuff, because like I don't think you can run a popular or run a business properly if you don't understand the numbers and you don't understand what those numbers mean. So I just encourage people.
And that's a huge point, because so I don't know if you guys ever heard of Cody Sanchez and what she's doing with buying small businesses and stuff. This is how I got into this whole thing. I mean, she's huge on social media. And I got into her ecosystem, because I actually went to go pitch her. In the interim, I was actually going to start a cannabis operation in Puerto Rico. And so I flew down to Austin to meet with her. She had a cannabis fund. And I have a crazy story about this whole. I missed a lot of steps on my intro, but anyway, it's okay. I get down there, I meet with her, and she's all about buying businesses. She's kind of, like a Roland Frazier kind of guy, but she was very big on that. So I joined her mastermind, and that's when I became very familiar with terms like EBITDA and seller discretionary earnings and multiples and how to even put it all together. And it was a very different language. And but it was consistency. I would just show up every Monday and listen to all the people that have done it, speak, and then eventually you pick up on it.
There's a lot of info, especially when it comes to buying businesses, that's free, that a lot of people, if they did a little bit of research, I think they would be surprised at the understanding of stuff out there that's free for people to use.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Renan, we're coming to the end of our time here, unfortunately. Why don't you go ahead and just give us a little, like a pitch of your company, whichever company you want to choose, or all of companies of, what. Well,
yeah, I mean, this is it. Syndicate Venture Group, private equity. If you want to invest, reach out to me, right? If eventually my passion goal is to set up an academy. So where we do teach people how to buy businesses, and it's also going to serve as a bit of an incubator, because, just like anything else, you have 30 people in a group, you have that one diamond in the rough that may not have the opportunity or resources. Well, if we have the money that we have coming in, that's where we can then put it into that person, help them buy the business, and then serve as an incubator to, it serves, everybody wins at that point. Right. So that's going to be, so if anybody's interested in partnering up or talking about that, that's in the works for this year. If you're in the restoration space, or if you just want to say, hey, that's me right there.
Well, here's his LinkedIn. We'll have all these highlighted down below, so it'll be easy for everybody to link all your links and go visit you and everything else. So I'd really like to have you back on sometime. Honestly,
Sure,
I find you very encouraging to people in general. Your story, especially business owners.
And I keep it real. Like I said, this was the scariest year of my life. It was not all roses and fun and like, hey, look, I'm a business owner. No.
And that's why I think that's why we do what we do, is because I think there's always that misconception that everything's perfect behind the screen, when, you know, in reality, what it takes to be a business owner, what it takes to run a business, I mean, it's a lot, you know, and it changes every day.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, we'll definitely have to have you back on, because I know there's more to you. more what you got to offer, that's for sure. So yeah, we'd love to have you back on sometime. We will definitely be reaching back out for you on that one. If there's anything else you want to add, go for it. If not, then we'll just have everybody go to all your links here, your LinkedIn and Instagram and all that. We'll have it all tagged down below. Jared, you got anything you want to add?
No, it's thanks for coming on. It was a great conversation.
Soldier Medic, I got you.
Anything else you want to add on, Renan?
That's it. No, thank you for having me on here, guys. For real.
Absolutely. We'll definitely be having you on again. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Welcome to the Business After Hours, where the ties loosen, the suit relax, and we talk business without the boardroom. Grab your favorite drink, kick back, and let's dive into the world of business after hours.